What's up, folks? My name is Noah, and I'm the Outreach Lead and Senior Strategist on Team 3663, aka CPR. I've been on this team for 3 seasons now, and I've got to say, this year is gonna be epic.
Yeah, and I'm Ava, CPR's ISS Lead and Strategy Lead. We're stoked to give you the lowdown on this year's competition.
All right, Charged Up is about charging up your community, literally. 2 alliances of 3 teams each go head-to-head to bring either cones or cubes to their community's power grid to score points.
But here's the twist. You gotta be strategic about it. If you can push the game pieces to the scoring spots, or use a fancy elevator or arm to place them on the grid, and don't forget about the human players. They gotta be loading up their robots with the necessary game pieces. It's a whole team effort.
And just when you think you got it figured out, there's the charge station. It's a balancing act that requires some serious mechanical precision. But hey, no pressure, right?
Overall, the game's a real doozy. It's a mechanical and strategic challenge that pushes teams to their limits.
So there you have it, folks. Charged Up in a nutshell. But we didn't want to just leave you guys hanging. That's why we put together a strategy overview to help our fellow firsters get charged up and dominate the competition.
All right, let's talk about auto. It's the first period that sets the tone for the rest of the match. And trust me, you cannot take this lightly. Today we're gonna give you the rundown on auto and why it's so important.
So, here's the deal. Teleop and Endgame are all about adapting to the ever-changing variables of the match, but auto is a whole different beast. The beauty of auto is that you can plan your strategy before the match even begins.
That's right, everyone. You can have a reliable baseline strategy up and running before the match even starts.
Thanks to the magic of flowcharts. Now, I know flowcharts may sound a little boring, but let me tell you, they are a lifesaver. They work by asking simple questions and guiding you down a path of possible answers. For example, your robot can reliably place 1 game piece during auto. You'd use a flowchart and follow the path until you reach a crossroads. The question at that crossroads, can your robot dock or not? If it can, great! The flowchart guides you to assess whether your robot can place a game piece and dock. If it can, you move on to the final choice, where you can see how many points you can potentially score.
But here is the catch. Before you make any final decisions based on the flowchart, you need to talk to your alliance. Every alliance is different and may be better suited for a docking strategy or game piece strategy. But be sure to discuss with your alliance and make sure the decision is made together.
And let's not forget the importance of the link ranking point. This sneaky little guy can make or break your standing in the competition. It's important to keep in mind when planning your auto strategy where you start and end your robot's path. It can greatly affect your ability to score in the link ranking point, so be sure to plan accordingly.
Now, don't get us wrong. Auto is no walk in the park. It takes careful planning and execution to succeed. But trust us, it's worth it. The time you save by having a reliable baseline strategy can mean the difference between gold and silver. So go forth, fellow robotics kids, and conquer auto like champions you are.
Hey Ava, now that we're done with auto, are you ready to dive into some teleop strategies for the upcoming competition?
Absolutely. But can we make it a bit more exciting? I want to feel like I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, then let's get right into it. The key to any successful match strategy is to have 3 objectives in mind. Of course, the ultimate goal is to win the match, but it's also important to keep your team's ranking in mind and to try and gain those 2 bonus ranking points. And if all else fails, you can always try to prevent the other alliance from achieving those same objectives.
But how exactly do you achieve those objectives, you might ask? Well, it all starts with a map control. Controlling important areas on the field, like the community or loading zone, can give your team a huge advantage by forcing the other robots to waste their precious time trying to get around you.
And speaking of time, cycle time is key in teleop. You want to score as many game pieces as possible within the time limit, so you have to have a fast and reliable cycle time. Tactical game piece placement can help you with that, and it also gives you the added bonus of getting link points.
But don't worry if this all seems overwhelming, because we've simplified it down for you to 2 main categories: map control and game piece placement. If you're a defense bot, then map control is your bread and butter. But even if you're not, understanding map control can still give you a leg up on the competition.
And when it comes to game piece placement, you need to make a crucial decision. Do you go for sheer quantity, or do you prioritize links? It all depends on your robot's capabilities and the data you have. And remember, maximizing link potential, points, and your efficiency should always be at the top of your mind.
And do not forget, before you go into a match, you need to decide whether you're playing for the win or for the ranking point. It can be a tough call, but with the right data and analysis, you can make an informed decision that could change the competition.
You know, speaking of changing, let's talk about all the different possible choices you can make during endgame.
Now, in 2023, the endgame period is a bit different than previous years. It's less defined, which can make it difficult to coordinate with your alliance partners.
But fear not, because at CPR, we've developed a plan to tidy up the endgame procedure and give your alliance the best chance for success. Check out the diagram on your screen for a breakdown of our strategy.
Of course, there's always a chance that your endgame strategy might not go according to plan. But do not worry, that's why quick thinking and on-the-spot decision making will be helpful. Of course, there's always a chance that your endgame strategy might not go according to plan. But do not worry, that's why quick thinking and on-the-spot decision making come in. It's important to be flexible and adaptable. Do not forget to keep your eye out for opportunities to score points.
Speaking of opportunities to score points, one strategy that might be worth considering is skipping endgame altogether. While it is a riskier option sometimes, it could be more beneficial to focus on scoring game pieces instead of trying to balance on that board.
And if you have a defense robot on your team, don't forget to put them to good use by engaging with a charging station or interfering with the other team's scoring attempts.
One thing to watch out for during matches is the tendency to automatically transition to endgame, even when it might not be the optimal choice. Remember, it is always better to complete the task at hand before moving on to a new one.
And if your robot needs more time to complete endgame, be sure to time out beforehand to better predict the possible outcome.
So there you have it, a breakdown of endgame strategies to help your alliance come out on top. Keep practicing, stay flexible, and don't forget to have fun out there.
No, you're forgetting one of the most important parts of the game.
You're right! In Charged Up, defense is an incredibly precise portion of strategy that can make all the difference. When facing a skilled opponent, the first question you need to ask is, do we need to play defense on these robots? And more importantly, what do we need to have on our alliance in order to safely commit to defending against another robot?
Now, we know what you're thinking. Assigning a robot to defense means we're losing points. But trust us, defense is extremely beneficial this year, if you do it right. And for this year, it's gonna be a game changer. In fact, it's such a tight defensive game this year, with so many rules against alliance on alliance contact for Charged Up. So alliances must be cautious with defense.
To maximize effectiveness as a defense robot, it is imperative that you scout out the field and locate focus areas. These are areas that will maximize interference with the other team while minimizing the interference to our own alliance's efforts. We've analyzed 4 zones on the field that can be classified as focus areas, and we've narrowed it down to 2 areas that would be better to use and 2 areas that wouldn't be as good to use.
Now, we know that robots don't want to sacrifice possible points that they could get. But a general rule to go by is to compare how many points the robot team would have gotten against the other opponents if you were to prevent them from scoring their own points. So if the points possibly scored is the same to the amount that you could possibly lose, it's probably best to keep the robot off of defense. However, if a robot's potential points prevented are greater than the points potentially scored, then perhaps that robot should be placed as a defense robot for that specific match.
But wait, there's more. Even robots that can score consistently and score enough points can even be used as defense robots to avoid congestion on the field. Trying to correctly orchestrate 3 separate robots while in a match is nightmarishly difficult. So a far more sound call is to have one of those robots on the Alliance play defense instead of scoring, in order to potentially allow the Alliance to score more points than they would have gotten if all 3 robots were trying to score at the same time.
Of course, we can't forget about fouls. A lot of fouls in this game are extremely difficult to avoid if you are unaware of them. So please, read that game manual that first provided. However, we do have some advice on how to avoid these fouls.
The main fouls that you're going to be able to control are zone fouls and pin fouls. Zone fouls are fouls that would be levied against you if you're in an opponent's zone. These fouls can easily be avoided with momentum. So if you find yourself in a pushing match with another robot, it's better to move sideways than straight on. Disengaging from these contacts can avoid possible fouls and damage to either your robot or the other team's. Pin fouls are kind of like this in a sense where it's a robot-on-robot contact. However, these can be avoided pretty easily if you have an experienced driver, or at least a driver who's been trained pretty well.
So, there you have it. Defense in charged up. Remember, defense isn't bad. If you do it right, it can make a defendable difference.
Wow, I think there's only one thing left that we need to talk about.
Yep, it's time to talk about the one, the only, ranking points.
Let's dive right in. We all know that winning matches is important, but what's even more important is the ranking points that you earn from winning. Did you know that the 2 ranking points you gain from winning a match are what really contributes to your overall standing?
That's right, Noah. And it's not just about winning matches, because there are alternative methods to gain these 2 RP throughout this competition. However, they can be difficult to pull off.
But don't lose hope though. Even if you're facing a match that seems unwinnable, there's still a chance to gain some ranking points. Instead of trying to amass a large amount of normal points, try shifting your focus to get those alternative ranking points.
And one of the most common ways to do this is by calculating the time cycle for link RP. This requires at least 5 links to gain the ranking point. During teleoperated period, each robot needs to score an average of 4 game pieces, giving them a cycle time of 33.75 seconds.
That's a lot of math, Ava. And while this calculation doesn't include every variable, it gives you a decent baseline to see if your team should go for the ranking point.
And remember, getting points doesn't necessarily secure your final tally of ranking points, but getting a win will. If you are sure you can't win that match, focus on getting ranking points instead of wasting time just getting more match points.
We've seen teams attempt to pull a victory from an overly difficult match. And while their determination is admirable, it's often more advantageous to go for the ranking points.
That's right. Winning matches is important, but getting those ranking points is the key to dominating your competition. So, put some serious time and thought into your strategy. And do not forget about links, auto, and time management.
Wow, Ava, that was a lot of information about First Robotics 2023 Challenge. I'm getting charged up just thinking about it.
I know, right? This is going to be an electrifying season.
Absolutely. And if our audience wants to shock the competition, they're gonna need to focus on strategy just as much as raw power.
Exactly. When it comes to strategy, every little bit helps when it comes to dominating the arena.
And let's not forget the importance of teamwork. Alliances that work together and communicate effectively are gonna have a real spark of success.
So, to all you aspiring robotic engineers and builders out there, remember to put some extra thought and energy into your strategy for this season.
And if you want to keep updated on the latest First Robotics tips and tricks, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more from CPR.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the pits.
Let's get charged up!